Okay, so this is Panza for the Storm in the West 1944 mod. This is my second cast. Hopefully the sound quality will be a little bit better. We have here MrCrisps with the 1st SS and Helix with the Festoon Gross Paris, two divisions that have been emphasized for testing against 2nd Infantry Division from Grognard, JC, and the 3rd Armored from Chaudard. The map is, of course, Hill 112, and it should be an interesting matchup. Fairly symmetrical thing, except for the fact that, well, it's not too symmetrical. The Festoon Gross Paris is high starting money, no income for Phase A. There's been some balance changes since the last cast. Festoon's Phase A is a little bit shorter. And a lot of infantry prices have changed to reflect changes in semi-auto rifle effectiveness. So, the way this map has a few issues with line of sight that make it not totally intuitive. So we see here on the bottom, Crisps is starting with a Panzerbusch 41 carrier, some infantry. We'll probably see the full setups later on. 2ID will, as in vanilla, starts with Rangers and transitions into a more standard infantry division. Rangers are powerful elite infantry. 3rd Armored is a fairly standard division in this mod. It features mechanized infantry and tanks at all phases, including a Phase AM-10. The 1st SS Panzer features elite infantry, elite tanks, on a wide variety of support options. So we see here Chaudard is going to deploy a light screening force on this bottom side here, with most of the effort going to be going toward the middle and the top. A lot of support, M8 Scott in support of infantry from both players. A lot of cooperation in the middle for them. And some cooperation from Helix and Crisps to take this middle hill, I presume. It's difficult to get back onto it if you get totally pushed off because of the way the slopes work for line of sight. And this hill does stretch out a good chunk past the 50% line here. Otherwise, Crisp should have an advantage down here. He has far more units. And up here, Helix has a significant advantage as well, but nothing terribly mobile. There's a Panzer 4G, so it's potentially he could attack in this sector. You see a scout plane from the Allied side. We'll see if that ends up helping them much. There will be a bit of a here's the Flampanzer B2. Could potentially be quite useful in these close quarters engagement, and it also has a gun to deal with light vehicles. But as the historical Flampan B1 BIS, it was quite slow, so it will take a while to get in there. Panzer IV staying in reserve. Here comes the deployment of AT gun here. Rosie probably now sees the column coming in. And Crisps is advancing slowly here in the southern sector. But there's not much of a defense here. Just a half track with a machine gun team. And then we see in the middle, okay. D520 probably going to shoot down that recon plane. unique in Festoon Gros Paris is that it has a Phase A fighter, unlike most Allied Axis decks. And yeah, these Landa shoots are going to get wrecked by the half tracks and these Ranger supports. Not much of a chance of surviving this alone. The leader's already dead. ROA might be okay. Right now, the Allies have a fairly favorable engagement in the middle. But once that B2F comes up, it might be less so. Yeah, but however, this is totally uncovered, so the gendarmerie and then this armored car is going to have free reign. That attack may have been too concentrated to control the flanks of that hill. And the half-track's going to come down here to try to clean up this position here. We see some light skirmishing down here, slow advance. Stug up here is almost unopposed. It could potentially just straight up push up this way. Unfortunately, these guys are blobbed up, and you know, an airstrike or an artillery strike could potentially destroy this position. And also, its flanks are totally insecure. So. D520 trying to strafe. Strafe here. Up top, you have not much of an engagement. Just a nice screen by the Festoon player and the Allied player Ranger supports with that Ranger tag. Very deadly to these Landa shoots and with their negative tag. You'll notice Landa shoots in this mod are a normal type squad, just not elite. And then, okay, we have, pointing out the presence of these vehicles, this B2F is going to be a serious advantage against this M8 Scott. Scott misses with his heat round, and the Panhard is just picking off these half-tracks. Mortar going in, suppressing the Scott pretty well. We're actually hitting these infantry, so. Yeah, the B2F gets a good shot on the Scott, and that Scott's as good as dead. Being shot at by a 37mm and a B2F, so French 47 actually. These infantry are getting suppressed, but the Ranger support's not a whole lot better. It's sitting in the open, getting shot at by a couple squads. It's not good for them. This armored car is proving to be a problem. 50 cal could knock it out if he came up closer to it, but with its AP1, but it needs to be much closer to knock this thing out. Panhard knocks out the Jeep. The only thing this B2F needs to be careful about is that these armored rifles have bazookas. So, advance going pretty smoothly on this side. Not too much commitment, but the defense has strengthened considerably with the addition of some infantry squads and a bazooka team here. This hill situation very precarious for the Allied players, for both of them. Needs to get rid of these armored vehicles in his back and secure this side of the hill. Otherwise, these troops are unsupported now, and this B2F can be pretty bold. Just has to be careful about bazookas. The French N36F gun taking its shots at this anti-tank gun. The Allied player bringing in a Stuart to clean this up, probably a good choice here. AT gun this close to enemy vehicles, probably not a great choice. Should be able to defeat this 231 though, because the Panhard is not in line of sight of the AT gun. Okay, so AT gun, you're gonna get a shot at this 221 and kills it in one shot. Okay, that's a good kill by the AT gun. But this AT gun is probably not gonna survive, and we see a lot of reinforcements coming up. 2 Stuarts now. But the south side is in a very precarious spot now. Although, let's see, there's more AT guns. This 234-1 could be a real problem if it goes up this road. It could basically shred these 2 squads and secure the hill more effectively. But for now, blue team, the Allies have this hill in hand. And now this 6-pounder, this 57, is going to knock out this B2F probably. Yep, the 6-pounder is really good in this mod. Fires pretty quickly, pretty accurately, with good AP. The northern position, kind of weak here, but not really. There's a lot of interlocking support. This AT gun is not in the best position. But it will prevent tanks from. Yeah, it'll prevent tanks from using that crossroad, keeping that Panzer IV-G in the rear. Could use it to swing around and maybe help in the middle, because the Stuarts are going to be coming. And the Stuarts are very deadly to light vehicles. Extremely deadly, and they're largely immune to autocannons. Yeah, he's got to get out of the way, but that Ranger support is pretty helpless against that armored car. Gendarmerie blazing away with the submachine guns. And yeah, the armored car, he finishes that Ranger support squad off. Ranger leader is a dangerous foe in close combat because of the satchel bomb, so he's got to be aware of that. South side advancing, and there is not much to stop them right now. If he keeps pushing, he could go all the way. Well, there's a Sherman DD coming up. If the Stug can defeat the Sherman DD, there won't be anything, but if the Sherman will need to close the range to defeat this Stug, though. Middle stabilized for blue for now, but this situation on the bottom side of the map is going to prove to be a real problem if they do not do something to change it. Phase B is coming soon, and once Phase B comes, the first SS will have a very high income, and a real onslaught will happen in this bottom side. So far, I would say the festoon player has done well. The 2ID player has done a decent job of keeping things stable, but this bottom side will need more support. It's good to see that both allied players are playing across the map, but it might be affecting their micromanagement. You're seeing Ranger supports not retreat in this situation. A little bit less unit preservation than one would like. Mortars being brought up to try to break this position in the middle, but I think they need to buy more units to deal with this problem in the on the edge. Yeah, the Stug blows up that cannon carrier. It's going to be a real nuisance. That Stug is going to be a real problem unless he can get a 6-pounder in an awkward position for it. Perhaps here? M10 coming, that can beat the Stug. The M10 can easily beat the Stug. They have the same range, but the gun on the M10 is considerably better than the gun on that Sherman 75. And the Sherman is killing that 221. Or was. I think it's firing on, yeah, the Stug now. But that's a closer range engagement. The Sherman has a chance to win. The Stug, nope, yeah, the Stug is turning to engage, but misses again. Sherman gets a hit but doesn't pin. That's not very likely to pin. It's about a 15% chance. right now, but it's getting hits and suppressing it, so there's a chance. We see some engagements here to clean this out. Build up in the middle by the Allies, and a lot of units being called in here to try to cope with this attack. This is the most dangerous point on the line right now. 3 bazooka teams coming in to try to get at this Stug. Will it happen? Makes the Stug fall back, but I don't think. Yeah, Stug gets away, doesn't get killed by the bazooka. Alright. Ranger support squad in cover is a tough opponent, but when fired upon by 2 AA guns and 2 light machine guns, it's going to be a problem. Ranger Marauders try to sneak into this woods, but this Feld Gendarmerie should beat the Ranger Marauders. It may not. The Ranger tag is pretty good, and there's a good chance they'll beat this Feld Gendarmerie. Actually, yeah, he's bringing in the other one to help. Stewart gets bailed out by this Pack 36. Got a little too close, a little too aggressive. Okay, these close combat squads are coming in. If they get in range of this Panzer Grenadier squad, the P-Gren squad is probably dead. Also, Phase B has come, and we see Whitman, who not only does he have the standard veteran crew buffs, but he also has an aim time buff. He's a Command Tiger with 3 stars, and we have a Command Panzer IV coming up. Real big threats for this these allied players to try to deal with. Up top, the position in the middle is a bit worse. We have a nice little human wave attack by these Landeshoots, and we'll see if they can press forward. The infantry is suppressed, so if they can keep these infantry suppressed, they stand a good chance at taking this position here. And that would be very bad for the allied player. It doesn't have much behind it other than a mortar. Panzer IV now a bit more free to move since most of the 6-pounders watching it are gone. Could support this attack here. Allies doing pretty well with the addition of a mortar here, firing at very close range to deal with these ROA troops. Yeah, the mortar is breaking up that attack pretty well. And mortar here breaks up this attack. It's it looked pretty bad at first, but now he's doing well. And now, unfortunately, these Ranger assaults are a bit overwhelmed. He needs to get them in this building so that they can shoot at the P-Grens, but or maybe not. The Stern Pioneer is not going to make it with the WC-52s shooting at them. Probably should get a unit in this tree line if they want to hold, but so far so good. But here come the heavy tanks. And, that first SS player has a lot of money to spend, as does the Festoon player, in fact. So expect pretty tough attacks through Phase B. We see the infantry attack on this AT gun position will free up this area and this area for tanks. However, this M10 and the Sherman here could potentially be a problem. Whitman is in a place that's actually not that good for him. He doesn't really want to be here. He can't see very much in this close-in environment, and errant bazooka hit to the side can potentially knock his tank out. And we see the early model Panzer IVs coming in, probably to stabilize this position here. The Rifles leader is a formidable squad of itself, And all these guys are pinned down. If he can advance, he probably could get a big surrender here. But I think their focus is on stabilizing the situation down here because, yeah, there's a flame track could just roll through here and kill almost everything. SS troops doing their not surrender thing, and Whitman coming in to provide support to the infantry. At this range, his 88 is very deadly to soft targets. And we have some Sturm Grenadiers here. Unlike in vanilla, they fire semi-auto out to 400 meters and full auto out to 175. And you can see they're firing semi at this range, much like the M1 Garands. Flamethrower dispatches the squad. He'll need more infantry. Good hit by these tanks to push, but this Pack 43 might be a problem. It's knocking out half-tracks right now, but it can easily knock out these two tanks coming up the road. Here comes a few more Shermans coming up the middle from the 3rd Armored player. Ooh, Whitman takes a bad hit from the 76. Yeah, he could die here. As I said, that was not a very... Yeah, Whitman bailed out. He is dead from that 76mm gun. That was not a good place to take Whitman. The Allies are on the move. We'll see if it's enough to get this map control back to their favor here. The M10 gets bailed out by the Pack 43, but the Pack 43 gets knocked out by the tanks. That can happen, you know. If you let a tank get too close to your AT gun, it's very much that the high explosive round from the tank is very accurate and can one shot an AT gun at that range. Slowly, the Allies are getting back here in these sectors that they left a bit weak. But their middle position is getting weaker. Not very much infantry left, just a mortar and an AT gun. Maybe an AT gun deployed too close. Yeah, it can't see much. That's probably not the best place they put it. Flame track going in and doing work. But this rifles leader might be more of a problem for it. Yep, bazooka knocks out the flame track, and then the 76mm gun is probably going to knock out that 4H unless, nah, the 4H has an advantage here. It's going to get pinned now. Another 76mm gun here to shoot at the Panzer IV. We see two Martyrs, we see a Panther and two Panzer IVs coming up the middle to sweep this out. Very potentially could. Just a lot of Sherman 75s here and a lot of open ground. Not great territory for them. The middle is not doing well, but more troops are coming up to reinforce it, and Helix is on the move in the north. More troops have come in. Tanks have come up to provide support. We got reinforcements. But this south is where the crisis is right now, and some rifles coming in. Pretty powerful basic squad for the Allies. May not be that way for too long though, because that 2x BAR loadout is ahistorical. We have, yeah, the Shermans are coming down here, probably to get out from the gunfire of this Pack 43 and these Martyrs, along with the Panther and support tanks coming up. Could probably use some infantry to lead this attack off, but so far Crisp's play has been excellent, playing to the advantage of that division in tanks. The veteran crew tanks and the elite infantry just doing a great job. A lot of good team play this game, which I really appreciate. Okay, so we see the yeah, we see an autocannon up along with troops. This attack could. There's not much behind this here. You could easily advance to this tree line. Even an AT gun here will not prevent that. They got one AT gun here watching it. Doesn't have sight all the way out because he is deep in the woods here. This position in the middle increasingly tenuous. 57 gun could shoot at this half track down here. Yep, knocks it out. But otherwise, tough spot here. Tough spot. This bottom side just feeding more units into the meat grinder. Multiple Shermans. Some rifles have stabilized the line on the very bottom side, but an attack is developing in this in-between area where there's not much defense and big wide open fields where the Panther can easily make its presence known. And the Panther is provided by the Festoon Grosse Paris player, actually, which is interesting. And as I said, some nice team play by the two players to bring coordinated attacks. Pack 38 trying to kill this Sherman could use APCR on it, and probably did to cause it to bail out. Nope, just normal ammo, but from the side it's good enough at this distance. The Pack 38 in this mod is just not it's not what it is in vanilla. It's a light AT gun, kind of a stopgap before the Pack 40, and it kind of shows. Our two martyrs probably using HE. Yep, just firing HE, getting the mortar is, I believe, trying to suppress these martyrs. Two Panzer Grenadier squads might have unloaded a little too early. This attack on the bottom side has a lot of potential, but so far, and on the top side as well, like both sides have been fairly tough for the Allied players to defend. They just may not have had the units to cope with it. You can see some first SS units here coming up toward the hill to take it. Martyred against this 57, this 6-pounder. A lot of HE guns firing at it. Yeah, it's not going to hold against a serious tank attack as a singleton. A lesson the French learned in 1940, in fact. Yep. So these tanks are entirely unopposed now and can drive pretty much as far as they want. Although I suspect that they won't. More reinforcements coming up to staunch this attack. He could probably use a tank up here, but yeah, here comes the M4 Rhino and the late model Sherman 75 to come up here. Panzer IV cannot observe it in its current position, but it could peek out and engage the Sherman. Sherman finally engages and destroys that Stug. Close range engagements are still reasonable for the Sherman. It just sucks at long range. Yeah, you see some SSP Grens and ROA troops in the middle here. Should overwhelm the limited defenses in the middle. Axis are ticking at +2 right now, and Phase C is coming very soon. Phase C is the Allied advantage in income. We'll see if they can bring this game back in the next about 18 minutes. Both of these divisions get sizable bonuses at the phase change as well. This should allow them to put together a counterattack if they coordinate and they take the right units. You can see this coming out in some priest and a couple rhinos for that 2 ID player. First rhino is going to come in soon. Might be able to kill that Panzer IV and then basically clean up this side, but he still has to contend with the incursions here and here. And the hill has finally been overwhelmed by the Axis player. It'll be hard to get back on it now. I think the Allies are in a precarious position right now. They'll need to launch a pretty concerted infantry assault to get this back, but yeah, here's more reinforcements. The Allies are certainly on the back foot right now. Here comes MrCrisps Panther. This just isn't the best place for it, but it might still be able to do some damage if he puts it somewhere right here. Got to keep those engagement ranges long for those German tanks to be more efficient. Sherman knocks out that early model Panzer IV, giving his side an advantage up here. Here comes an off-map bombardment, and it could be devastating. Not much here. If he wanted to, he could probably launch an attack, kill this, and get some territory on the edge. But this gaping hole is a problem. There's a Sherman 76 from Chaudard and another M10, probably going to try to attack along both roads to staunch this breakthrough here. Helix not taking advantage yet, though, just kind of letting him, but he doesn't need to. The Axis are at a territorial advantage right now, and yeah, here comes the off-map bombardment. Yeah. Yeah, it's done some real damage here. It's almost destroyed his position. So yeah, bombardments are expensive in 1 per, but they can be devastating to closely packed in troops. Unfortunately, this is going to be really hard to attack with so much infantry and so many support vehicles. Getting up this hill will be a pain, and then the Panzer IV-H does a good job of dealing with the tanks moving up this road. M10s not at much of an advantage against this Panther. Need to get closer to use their HVAP ammunition. Need to this HVAP with an 800 meters can easily penetrate a Panther, but needs to close that distance. Not the best Allied tank play I've seen. The Axis are dominating the end of this game right now. We'll see if that income comes into play. But however, the presence of multiple tanks has basically broken this wide open. It's kind of surprising, but I guess you can see that non-elite infantry is going to struggle to, you know, if you don't have anti-tank defenses, he can just roll right over you. Pack 40 not in the best place to deal with this. Probably the Stugs can yeah, Stugs are going to move up to try to deal with this. Some infantry going to come in to try to assault this area again. 76 gun not in range. It doesn't. Yeah, the 76 AT gun doesn't have HVAP. Martyr gets knocked out by a 6-pounder. Martyrs are quite vulnerable to just about any AT gun knife, but they are cheaper than in vanilla. They're only 70 points, but they can be knocked out by Greyhounds and Stuarts fairly easily. Interesting arrangement here. Stoss troop next to the mortar. They just can't see each other because of the incline. Here come rifles to try to make this game more permanent. 2 Stugs though kind of have a overlooking position on the hill here. It's 2 Stugs and a Pack 40 in fact. And still not much here. The Axis breakthrough is total in this area. So we'll see the attack go in. A lot of SS troops coming in. The support of an AA half-track. More troops moving in on the very bottom. This Allied penetration in the top has done pretty well for itself so far, but it's pretty much stopped here. It can't pass up these Stug 3s. There's really not much they can do about them right now. Yeah, driving right up to the AT gun. Yeah, unfortunately, when you a lot of territory on the edge doesn't, breakthroughs on the edge don't count as much as breakthroughs in the middle in this game mode, just because of the way percentages work on territory. This is extremely much more meaningful than that. It's better to try to attack in the middle if you're going to try to get territory back. Yeah, you see the Allies making some inroads in this in-between area here. It's probably their best bet. It's weakly defended, and the lion's share of the reinforcements are going right toward the top. Infantry finally here to kind of just form a front line in front of this penetration. Crisp troops take this part of the city for once, and yeah, the Panther sitting distantly, just shooting its high explosive gun. You kind of have to understand that with the tanks in this mod, their high explosive firepower gets way better up close, because it doesn't just, accuracy does kind of matter for HE in this mod. If you want to be able to ping away at max range, you have to use the howitzer tanks like the Stews or the the Cromwell supports and then that kind of thing, the Cromwell CS and the Churchill CS, or the Churchill 5, sorry. Well placed recon squad here. You can see everything, but I don't think there's much you can do about it right now. He's got a lot to deal with. He's bringing in probably a 6-pounder to knock out perhaps this Panzer IV. And here comes an attack from a Sherman and some other vehicles. That actually has some potential. If he can bring in more infantry squads to support it. Yeah, he gets back onto the hill now. And there's not much. The Germans have not placed anti-tank assets on the hill. And yeah, the Panther can't actually see the approach to the hill and can't block it. 57 not in range of its special ammo, but jams the weapon on the Panther. That's a good result. Excellent result, in fact. He'll require a supply to come up and fix that. Excellent job with that AT gun. Another one here, but the hillside prevents it from actually seeing much. He's driven that Panther back despite losing the AT gun. A worthwhile trade, I would say. Unfortunately, the vehicles have been driven back. This is the kind of situation where an off-map might be able to spring you up. You could off-map this area or perhaps this area. And here comes a bunch more infantry and vehicles. The AA guns are what keeping the half-tracks from dominating. The AA guns all have an AP value, which means that they are much more effective against half-tracks. Nice shot to knock out this Stug 3. Probably, yeah, engaged on two sides, making it fairly difficult. Yep, side shot beats that Stug. Still have some action into as the match nears its end. The Allies are playing till to the end. It's very appreciable. Tiger coming in from the bottom. Panther, yeah, he could advance now. The only thing left in the way are these two AA half tracks. Probably shouldn't use infantry. Should just drive in with a tank, but I guess he doesn't want to risk his Panther to do it. A few reinforcements here in the middle. And in the middle, the attack is going better. Kind of aggressively dumping off infantry. Knocks out one of the both AA guns, so the vehicle play should be free. One thing he could have used is smoke. It might have jeopardized his ability to use these vehicles in support. Unfortunately, the Scot has no ammo left. Needs to get it back to supply. And the attack in the south going very well now. There's really still not anything in their way. It's just Crisps doesn't want to take a risk. In the north here, the Allied position is much more solid than it used to be. But it came at the cost of several tanks. So, yeah, all these tanks are dead. Yeah, 6-pounder shooting at along with the Greyhound, shooting at the Panzer IV. 6-pounder getting in some good shots, just not connecting. Yeah, that's a good crit. That should be the end of that Panzer IV. Yep. And Chris finally pushing more in the south. Panther in the middle gets killed by a Sherman in the rear. That was I suppose the AI kind of losing its missing the mark, but that's a good kill for the Sherman. It looks like a Puma is coming up in the middle. The Sherman should generally beat these Pumas, but sillier things have happened. I think the Panther might have been the Panther that had its weapons jammed, trying to go and repair at this truck. Blue doing a good job of attacking. It's just maybe too little too late. Gets back onto the hill. Not much, you know, in their way anymore. The AA trucks are very deadly. These AA vehicles are extremely deadly to infantry and light vehicles. Just not very well armored themselves. I see red. It's very good fire superiority here. No. If they can bring up their own infantry, they're probably toast. And here come the AA vehicles. Yeah, you can see the raw power of all that machine gun. Oh, yeah, here comes the another AA vehicle. Okay. Sorry about that. Anyway, okay, yeah, the Greyhound got a little too close to Bavaroans with their anti-tank weapons. Probably shouldn't use Bavaroans in blobs because of that debuff, but I guess he doesn't have much of a choice, and it's less than a minute to the end of the game now. Yep. And AA vehicles are toast, and this middle is completely gone. Center position good though. They finally retook the hill. They just lost everything else. You know, in C, the Allied onslaught can be pretty tough. They get a lot of points. It's just it just wasn't enough to change the momentum of this game. Very important to preserve units. That's what I would say the moral of the story of this game is. The Allies kind of really got ground down in Phase B especially, and I can just say that also this wide open map allowed for better heavy tank play from both Axis players. And anyway, this is Panza signing off, and sorry about the sound issue near the end there. That was a situation where I forgot to put my phone on silent. Alright, thank you for watching.